Thank you, Don. Um, and welcome to everybody for my presentation on knowing your customer and beating the competition. As Don just mentioned, my name is Darren Pratt. I'm the Director of Sales Engineering here at the Forza, and I am delighted to host you today through this presentation. Also joining me is my colleague, Rob Hopkins. Rob is part of our customer success team, but prior to that, he has a long and glorious history in the consumer goods industry, and we're going to be talking to him later on in the presentation about some of his real world experiences and challenges. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation later on. So as the title suggests, this presentation is all about knowing your customer and beating that competition. And as we know, competition is more intense than ever. Now, in the current market, with all the challenges that we're seeing around COVID, what we know is that competition is always looking to get an edge over us, and we should be striving to do the same. One of the things that we're really seeing, though, when we talk about competition finding an edge, is that a lot of the consumer goods firms are starting to lose market share to some smaller brands and private labels, some aggressive startup organizations that are targeting on a very local level their markets. They're getting closer to the customer, they're smaller and they're agile, and they're being very aggressive in those markets. And if you look at this report from Bain, it's a really interesting report because it shows you across a number of different categories such as soft drinks, packaged foods, the erosion of market share. And it's not just in one geography, it's across many different geographies as well. So we're seeing this happen consistently around the world. And what this is really leading to is that consumer goods companies are realizing that they have to get closer to their customer. They have to be able to operate at the same level as these aggressive startups. So they've got to be able to target much more dynamically. They've got to be able to move with much greater speed and agility to understanding and using that information. And they've got to become hyper local and hyper focused in their tactics and in the way that they engage with their customers. And so it's really a challenge to make sure that your solutions and systems allow you to support these different focuses of your business. What we're also seeing as well is that this is consistently happening. It's not one particular demographic that you need to operate at this level. It doesn't matter whether it's middle-aged white-collar workers or if it's young students. All consumers, in the current market, are much more open to trying different brands, to taking on the latest promotion, for trying to change the way that they buy to make cost savings. And this is consistent across all of the different areas. And you just have to ask yourself the question: have you tried a new brand recently? I mean, I myself know, for instance, that I drink a particular beer, and every Friday, my son, who's back at home during lockdown because of COVID, will sit down and have a drink on a Friday. And I have a particular brand of beer that I've been drinking for years because my son's home. He happened to go to the local supermarket. There was a promotion on for an ale that him and his friends have taken a particular liking to, that's focused on the young people, and he purchased those, brought them home, and I tried them, and I have to say, those beers were lovely, and next time I'll be quite open to trying them. So that loyalty that we've always felt for particular brands, that can change very quickly, and everybody is more open to that, and it's something that we have to be aware of when we're thinking about how we target certain stores, certain areas, and we think about the demographics of those areas and their tastes and what we need to make sure that we're doing so that they can stick with our brand and our product. So this hyper local and hyper focused approach, that will allow us to be able to target these customers and to make sure that we're supporting our customers to give them the right mix of products to be successful. So organizations have been trying to do this for a while, and it's why is this a challenge? And I think the real challenge is that because these larger consumer goods organizations have built out their architecture and their IT infrastructure over time, they've built solutions that have been very much point based and focused on a particular problem one at a time. So they've operated in silos and they've created solutions to address those silos. And what's now happening is that we're at a point, an inflection point, where we need to make these systems connected end to end and talk to each other. And because we have these legacy solutions, trying to connect them together is very difficult. And even if we do connect them together, trying to make them real time and agile so that if we need to change, again, is even more difficult because they become very rigid and very brittle. And so at this point of time, a lot of consumer goods organizations are looking at their platform and asking, is this fit for purpose for now and for the future? And what they're starting to do is look at platforms that are cloud-based, that are end-to-end, that are agile, and that connect these processes in a hyper real time and give them the flexibility to be agile and be able to pivot very quickly. Because ultimately, the IT platform that you decide upon is going to dictate the outcomes. It's going to dictate the experience, not only of how you implement, of how you adapt and how you change, but also how your users engage with the system and ultimately adopt those systems and solutions and get the information they need to be more effective. Now, I'm going to take a moment here to pause, and I'd like to bring here my colleague Rob to have a chat about some of his real-world experiences and some of the things that he's found. Whether the questions that we've just spoken about and the points that we've just made, do they resonate with you?
Yeah, they absolutely resonate with me. As you know, I spent a decade in the field, experiencing a lot of the frustrations that you've highlighted in your slides in your deck. And I think specifically working across multiple systems and using copious amounts of spreadsheets was very, very time consuming, very inefficient, but it also meant entering the same piece of information several times across different systems that didn't necessarily connect with each other. And as a sales rep, what you need is all that relevant information to hand, have it easily accessible and available when you're in front of the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're talking about today, it's all about knowing your customer and getting all that information together. One of the questions that I have for you really is, what challenges did you see when it came to using all of that information that's being collected in the way that you target and identify the relevant customers?
I think grouping customers has always been a huge challenge. I think basic segmentation is relatively straightforward, where you want to target some activity or promotion specifically at a certain kind of outlet or group of outlets. It's when you start to get more complex and want to segment to a granular level, that's when the problems start.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, sure. So, in my time, sort of doing the face-to-face customer sort of selling role and, sort of being that sales rep, we'd often get sort of promotions, objectives, specific brand activity like brand launches, new brands, and those would normally be targeted at accounts with specific characteristics. But commonly what you'd find is on your target list, there'd be 30-40% of those outlets that you knew, 100% knew, were not the correct target customers for that specific brand or that specific activity. And this often caused a lot of frustration in that sales force around the feeling that the data was bad and it was incorrect. And what it also did was create a lot of negative work. So basically what you ended up doing was justifying and spending time on not making the sale because you were justifying back to head office why accounts shouldn't be on the list and shouldn't be having that brand, which when you start saying that out loud, it sounds really absurd.
No, totally. And I mean, I suppose a key thing is, having incorrect information around the customers really has an impact. But I suppose when you add onto that pricing and customer specific pricing, then there's another level of complexity. Did you see any challenges in this area at all?
Yeah, there were many. I think pricing is one of the more complex areas of the consumer goods industry. I've worked across both retail and sales environments in my career. In retail, customers are generally paying the same price.
Mhm.
While, from experience of the brewing industry, certainly for many years, each customer would have a unique set of prices.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think this is a really important point.
Yeah, so, it was difficult to get one version of the truth, for example. So working across multiple systems, as I sort of described a little earlier, at best you were getting a lag, in the information you were getting. At worst, there were inconsistencies in pricing. And, also working from those static spreadsheets, they were often out of date as soon as they were updated. And, in addition to that, we faced issues with not having offline pricing capability, for example, which meant that users were having to work from either offline spreadsheets or where they could place an order offline. They weren't able to see, accurate pricing, discounts, any relevant promotions. And what that results in is missing out on a lot of sort of key selling opportunities because you didn't have that information available to hand. And that was especially relevant where an opportunity would present itself in the moment where it's something you hadn't necessarily prepared for. I guess another couple of challenges I guess I saw when I was in the field was producing a customer price list. Now, it's perceived that that's a really, really simple thing to do. Is a customer asks for a price and you send them a price list. From my experience, that was a really manual, tedious, monotonous, really sort of time-consuming process. And, it's a minimum requirement, right? A customer asking, show me my prices. But it was also always really, really sort of time-consuming to get that in front of a customer. And, I guess the last thing I'm sort of thinking about, around some of those sort of pricing experiences was around, really sort of visualizing on receipts or invoices, the customer's purchases, which included, discounts and any promotions that they'd had. And again, that was something that was really, really hard to surface.
And why is that important?
I guess specifically with that, in general, the consumer goods market is really, really competitive. So customers will have multiple options around the products they stock and, which suppliers they buy those products from. And, customers care about cash flow and profit. They are, a couple of the really important parts of a customer's business. And showing the customer the value that you're giving them, certainly encourages customer satisfaction. It definitely encourages customer loyalty, and also gives transparency as well. And there were countless times when I was in the field that a customer would shout about how great one of my competitors was, and what great things they were doing. And I think the key for for any company is to have that customer talking about you and the great service that you were offering, and the great things that you were doing. And I think it's really, really important to sort of stay ahead of your competition.
Yeah, brilliant. I think you've highlighted some fantastic points where, you know, companies can make huge improvements and really make an impact out in the field. You talk a lot about ordering, and the importance of that process. I'd be really keen to get your thoughts around AI and machine learning and the advances in that area and what benefits you think that might be able to bring.
You know, I think it's simply a game changer for companies and customers. Being able to predict a perfect order based on customer ordering patterns, customer order history, and potential other important factors that may be relevant is massive. But not only that, you've also got the ability with AI is to direct that salesperson to opportunity, or opportunity for growth, sending them to the hotspots, and while they're there, equipping them with information so they can sit with a customer, explain to the customer how a brand or a product could add value to the customer's business, but can also demonstrate that the brand that they are selling is outperforming similar brands in similar outlet types in their locality. And all of a sudden, that makes that story really relevant for the customer, and it's really engaging for the customer. So I think, certainly AI and machine learning is a huge leap forward.
Great, thanks, Rob. I think you made some brilliant points there, and as you know, at Forza, we're really embracing the AI and machine learning to really make a difference going forward for our customers. One of the things I really wanted to ask you about as well was your experience as a product owner, because I know that you helped develop a custom CRM tool. I think it was built on the Salesforce platform. I'd really be interested to hear your experiences around that.
Yeah, so I guess in short, I was part of a global project at Molson Coors to build a custom solution, and ultimately that was to solve a lot of the problems that I think we've discussed and you've highlighted in your deck today.
And what are your reflections on that project? What were your learnings or the things that you took away from that project?
Well, it was a very successful project. We were able to retire many legacy systems, which gave a good cost saving. But I think more importantly, what we were able to do was to bring all of the information together and give a real 360-degree view of customers to the sales rep that they could access in front of customers. And that project is still ongoing at the moment, but it was a real terrific tool that we developed.
Brilliant. I mean, invaluable experience. And, I know you mentioned it was successful, but I'm sure there were some learnings and some challenges that you took away from that. So could you talk a little bit about those learnings that you took from that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, every project has some negatives. I think, it's probably worth calling out that, there was a heavy cost to that project because it was a bespoke, custom individual project. And
Yeah.
along with that came a lot of a heavy resource requirement. And that wasn't just on the initial build, the sort of big build of that sort of tool. It was every time there was an update or release, you needed people to be testing that system to ensure that it was working correctly. And, at the time when the decision was made to, go and improve that CRM capability, there was no real obvious product available that fitted the business requirements at that time, which is why we ultimately decided to create our own.
Well, look, Rob, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak to us and just to bring your experience, to the discussion that we're talking about today. It's been really helpful, and really appreciate the answers that you've given us.
Thanks, Darren.
So I'd like to take a moment now to take you through a quick demonstration to talk around how technology can help us and how a Forza specifically can address some of these challenges. And to do that, I'm going to take you through a demonstration today with a number of different personas. Annie, the administrator, Sally, field sales, Vicky, virtual, and Peter, the business planner. Basically, the scenario that we're going to talk to today is our company has come across a new competitor called Drinks Plus, who are aggressively targeting accounts in one of our regions. And what we need to do is set up a way of finding out which accounts are being targeted by the field, and then in real time put together a plan to address this new challenge, to create a promotion that can then be targeted against the accounts where Drinks Plus currently have a presence, and put a solution together to address that threat that we're experiencing out in the market. So let's start as Annie. So here I am logged into an Forza as an administrator. This is where I can track all of the activity. I can see our sales, etc. But I've been tasked with setting up a way of tracking which accounts are being focused on by Drinks Plus. So here I can see the 360-degree views of all the accounts, but I can also see the segment page. And this is where we can set up attributes to track different things. And I can see against the competitors that there's no segment set up for tracking Drinks Plus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new attribute just for Drinks Plus, which I can then add to the account page to allow people in the field to be able to flag accounts as being targeted by Drinks Plus. So because I'm using a Forza, I can go into this new attribute section, and with the click of a button, very quickly, I can add a brand new attribute specifically for Drinks Plus. So here you can see me filling in the various information. I'm just going to add that information and complete the details and the description. Now, once I've done this and I've saved this, this attribute will be immediately available not only on the online solution, but also on the offline mobile apps that Forza provides for the users to be able to capture information out in the field. So here I am now. I go back to the account page. I can now look and search for the Drinks Plus attribute that I just created a few seconds ago, and I can add that dynamically immediately to the page. So that's how rapidly I can add these new attributes to the solution. But now let's just switch heads and be Sally out in the field. Here I am on the Forza app. I look at the page and I haven't synchronized yet. So you can see against the same account page, I can't see that attribute. But because it's a Forza, I can go ahead and synchronize. And then almost immediately, once that data is refreshed, I can go back to that main page and I can see that that new attribute for Drinks Plus is immediately available. So that data has transferred down instantaneously. Now that also works in reverse as well. So if I go and find the Cardiff Bay account for Fresh Plus and I look at the segment page, I can see that at the moment we've got no attributes set against that page. Now, as Sally, I happen to call in at Cardiff Bay on my route, and I find out that Drinks Plus is definitely active within this account. Now, because I've added this new attribute, I can go ahead and search for it, and there it is, Drinks Plus, and I can immediately add it to the segment and save that and synchronize that information back into the main system, feeding back my knowledge directly to the team to be able to analyze those Drinks Plus customers. So here I am now as Annie. I refresh the page, and because Annie is synchronized, I can see that she's now flagged the Cardiff Bay account as a Drinks Plus account. And that will happen across the entire field force. So as the field force find different people, that will come back. Now, because I want to create a segment to track all these new accounts being flagged as Drink Plus, within a Forza, I'm going to go ahead and create what we call a dynamic segment. So here I am, I'm creating a segment for Drinks Plus. I'm going to give it a name and I'm going to save it. And this new segment, because it's dynamic, will automatically update as new information comes in all the time. So at the moment, I can see I haven't added any filters to that segment. So it operates for 100% of the accounts. I'm going to go in here now. I'm going to add that brand new attribute, Drinks Plus, that we've just created to this segment and update it. And you can now see that this segment is targeting 10% of the customer audience. So it's dynamically looking at those Drinks Plus attributes and updating that segment in real time. Now, of course, as that information comes in from the field, it's going to update the segment, but I may also capture that information through other channels, such as maybe merchandisers or through a market research project. And that may sit externally in the system. So I might be capturing that data in, say, an Excel spreadsheet. Now, because Forza is built on a modern platform, we can easily connect through APIs to immediately pull data down, or in this case, push information back up. So here we can see a list of accounts that's been determined are Drinks Plus operating within. So what we want to do is push this information immediately back into Forza. So I simply use this tool, which is connected to the Forza solution. I can go into here. I can update Forza using this update mechanism. I simply click on update. It will then push this information into the solution as attributes into the Forza system. So here I go. I click push, and that information is going to be transferred into Forza immediately. And if I go back into Forza and refresh the segment that I just created, because we've uploaded that data from those different sources, we get a single view of the segment, and we can track all of the customers within our single solution. So here I go back to that segment. Here it is that's been set up for Drinks Plus. I can refresh that segment, and I can now see that data in a single place and is available for me to use within my targeting and my planning. Now I'm just going to simply go ahead on this segment. I can see all the accounts that have been flagged as Drinks Plus accounts. I'm going to create a quick route name, and I'm going to select all of those accounts, and I'm going to use those in creating a route. And within a Forza, we have a tool called route planning, which allows us to visualize accounts within a graphical map. So here I can see those accounts I've just added to that route. I'm going to click on the view, and you can see it's drilling in this beautiful screen to see all of the accounts and the geographical location that Drinks Plus are targeting us. Now, finally, what I can do is use that segment to drive my planning. So here, I'm going to use that Drinks Plus route that I've just created. I'm going to drag it onto my agenda builder. I can see all the various tasks that have been created for each of those accounts, and I can now plan those activities across my team. So I can drag those visits for each of those accounts into the various sales rep that I want to go and talk to those customers and address the threat of Drinks Plus. Now, the final thing that I want to do is create a promotion that's going to allow us to be competitive within those accounts. Now, I have a promotion that I've used previously called the Duke Sports Special that I use for a different set of accounts. And this is a great promotion, and I want to reutilize this. So what I'm going to do is just give it a name, Drinks Plus, and I'm going to clone that promotion and then repurpose it for Drinks Plus. So there I take all of that promotion that I've used previously, and I really all I need to do is change the segment it's targeting on. So I change that to the Drinks Plus segment we just created. I can save that, and that is now made that promotion active and available for all accounts that are flagged as Drink Plus target accounts. I can see it within the promotion calendar for all of those accounts, and I could make adjustments for the promotion directly through that visual interface. So not only is that available, it's now targeted at those accounts. Now let's switch back again to Sally, and Sally's going to synchronize. She's going to pull the data directly down into her mobile app, and that promotion is now again available for her to use offline and disconnected to position that promotion directly with a customer. And as I go into the order, you can see the promotion. I can add the details for the promotion directly into this card. I can capture all of that information, add it to the cart. So I've positioned that with the customer. They love the promotion. They're going to go ahead, get that discount, and they can then sign that off, and we can action that promotion.
So I know you've just seen an awful lot there within that few minutes, but hopefully that gave you a good idea how a modern cloud-based platform such as Forza, focus on the consumer goods industry, can really help transform your business and help you beat the competition. We showed you end-to-end how you can use a Forza not only to put together a plan to understand what your competitors are doing out in the field. You can gather that information, analyze that information to understand how is and what is the best way to respond, and then build responses against that by creating appropriate promotions or targeted discounts, and then pushing that back into the field for execution, ultimately beating the competition and increasing your sales out within that region. So it's hopefully giving you some food for thought. Now, I've almost finished, and I really appreciate your time. I've got a few minutes left, though, so I'm going to answer a couple of questions that have come in. The first question is around the mobile application that you've seen operating in that disconnected manner today. And the question is a Forza Mobile available on Android? Yes, a Forza Mobile is available on both Android and iOS. And you can download that from the Apple App Store and the Android Play Store. The second question I have is around the promotion. So the question here is that you show the promotion. Do you have full trade promotion management capabilities? Yes, Forza has a whole range of capabilities. Today you've just seen a small selection of those. Trade promotion management is one complete capability that Forza provides, but we have a whole end-to-end solution that covers everything from retail execution to visit planning, all the way through to trade promotion management. If you'd like to see any more around Forza, please get in contact. We'd love to take you through any of our capabilities. So please drop us a line. We'd love to talk to you. So with that, I'd like to say once again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your attention. I hope you found that valuable and interesting. And at this point, I'd like to hand back to Dom to continue with the webinar. So thanks very much.